Well, good evening, and welcome back to another episode of What's So Funny, the show that probes the minds, the brains, the psyches of the people who make the funny. Tonight, what would happen if Jerry and Elaine's one-time union resulted in a love child? What might Chris Rock look like if he were born a Mormon in Idaho? And what is Howdy Doody up to these days? We'll find out by talking to comedian Ryan Hamilton. Ryan headlined the Comedy Mix this past weekend. I caught up with him high atop the Century Plaza Hotel on Friday afternoon. First off, though, let's hear Ryan Hamilton in action talking about cat eyes and bikes.
City now, and when you move from Idaho, very smooth transition, I gotta say, first of all. I find that New Yorkers understand that places like Idaho exist, but really don't believe in them. You know, I might as well be from Narnia in their head, really. I get this a lot. Where are you from? Idaho? Why? I don't know, that's where I done been born. That's why. That's where God done birthed me. And then I flip my suspenders and I run away because I'm scared of them. I see things in New York that I didn't see growing up. I saw this guy on the train wearing cat-eye contact lenses. That was his look. Just looking like a cat for the day. That was what he was into doing. I've never seen anyone back home in Idaho tooling around on their tractor looking like a cat. But that was this guy's look. And nobody seemed to care. Everybody's like, oh yeah, that's the cat guy. Yeah. This is really weird to me. It's so weird. And here's the thing about that look. It's not an accident. Like, you gotta put some preparation into this look, you know? Like, I might put on the wrong pants and shirt combination, but I don't walk out of the house, catch myself in the mirror and go, oh, I look like a man cat again today. Again with the man cat. And there's no practical purpose behind this look at all. Like, the only thing I can come up with, maybe if you're crossing the street in the dark, it might come in handy then, right? If you see, like, a 6-foot man kitty in your high beams, you're going to slow down for that guy because he's a human being and he will mess up your grill, you know? I think he wants attention, maybe. So I got down. I looked him right in the cat eyes, right? I got down mano y gato. I looked him right in the eyes. And I just went... Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. He didn't laugh at all, not even a little bit. I thought that was hilarious. I think he was bummed out or something. So I pulled out my laser pointer, and he had a lot of fun with that. Like, he was like all over the place, you know. Yeah. Running into things. Isn't childhood funny? I mean, we all share this hilarious experiences of our childhood, and every time I see a little kid on a bike now, he's got a helmet on, which is so weird to me because when I was a kid, the only bike safety we worried about is if the kid riding on the handlebars had a good grip. That's all we cared about. Do you remember that? Do you remember riding with the kid on the handlebar? You know, the driver can't see a thing, right? That's a curb, you idiot! Turn! We're gonna die! Huh? Right? Next thing you know, you're like laid out on the street, you know, take a handlebar right in the gut. Do you remember that pain? Do you remember just that? Someone help me, get my mom. I'm gonna die. Here's the thing, don't you think it's weird as adults, we never get the wind knocked out of us, but as kids, like every other day, really? Yeah, if I got the wind knocked out of me today, 99% sure I'd call 911. I'm almost certain. Wouldn't you? You call 911, you would. Get some poor operator on the line, 911. I can't breathe. I don't know, he's lit while I was jumping, and now I'm gonna die. I'm gonna... ogres. No, I'm still here. You're not going to believe this. Yeah, it just went away. So, I'm so embarrassed. Oh boy. Yeah, you can go ahead and cancel that or whatever. I'm going to go do some laundry. Thanks a lot. Please don't come. I'm hanging up now. Please don't come!
Ryan Hamilton, here we are in the room, 25 floors up. Gorgeous view.
Yeah, it's not a bad view. I've sent people pictures of this view since I got here, just because it's so much different than New York.
You're looking out over English Bay, the west end of Vancouver. Yeah, it's pretty nice and relatively clear.
Yeah, it's a nice day today. I don't know I'm assuming it's not always like this.
Well, you know from last night or when you flew in.
Oh, yeah. Yesterday was kind of, yeah.
So I saw you last night. Great show. You have a real natural presence on stage.
Oh.
And you're really in the moment. So that requires confidence and, I guess, experience. But was there a time when you weren't like that? Like, did you kind of one day just figure it out and go, this works for me?
Well, thank you. First of all, that's very nice of you to say. And so, I really don't. I mean, every show I go up and I go, I hope I can be in the moment, and I hope I can do this. So, I mean, I don't think I ever get completely, like, comfortable with myself going, oh, I got it. It's nailed. It's done. I'm figured it out. You know, so I never have felt like that. But, and I don't think it's ever been one day. But there have been moments where I go, oh, that was kind of like a little breakthrough moment where I learned something and something just clicked. And, but I didn't go one day, I found my voice and everything's natural.
Right.
And I still feel like I'm exploring and experimenting with what comics call their voice.
And there'll be further breakthroughs along the way, I guess.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think that's what's great about stand-up, and that's why people do it for forever, is because you can continue to learn and it continues to be interesting in different ways, you know. I don't know why else Seinfeld would still be touring, you know? Like, he doesn't need the money. Of course, it's fun, but it's like, it's also challenging, and that's one thing that's great about stand-up. In its simplicity, it continues to provide, you know, unique and interesting challenges all the time.
Yeah. Do you have an example of one of those breakthrough aha moments?
Yeah. I was working on the hot air balloon bit. Do you know that? Yeah. So when I worked on that, I was like just sitting there going, I didn't. Most of the time, I had come up with stuff that was like just happening to me in the moment that day or whatever, and I found funny. But this was a time when I found myself going, I need to write about something interesting, and I just reviewed my life, and that had happened years and years and years ago, and I just said, okay, I'm going to take this and make it funny. And I did that, and I felt like it came out. I was happy with the way it came out eventually over months of trying things and working on it. And then I was watching Louis C.K., and he took a story that, like, walking down the street and made it funny. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I thought to myself, oh, I kind of reached one level for myself where I thought I made really something that was already kind of interesting funny, but now I want to be able to take whatever's happening to me that day, like, make it that funny. And Louis C.K. does that, I think.
That balloon bit is great. Is it a signature piece of yours now?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of new.
Is it?
Yeah.
Still.
I mean, yeah. That's a pretty recent thing that happened. I guess that's maybe 6 months old now or something at least, but it's not that old to me anyway. So I rambled on about that for quite a while, and that wasn't funny. Is this a funny podcast?
No, it's conversation about comedy.
Comics. I imagine when you interview us, you always feel there's always a pressure to be funny or something. I guess maybe some people times.
Yeah, no, it's all kinds. There's
Yeah.
some that are never off,
Yeah.
and there's some that are never on.
Right.
And then there's a nice mixture where, it's
Yeah.
sort of natural. As friends talk, sometimes they're funny. And,
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been funny once. So.
Do you mean
on
so far?
Yeah, on the podcast.
That's okay. You told me, and by the way, we spoke for a newspaper piece a while back over the phone.
Yes.
A phoner. It's much better in person, gotta say. I mean, not you.
Oh.
I'm just the idea,
Right.
seeing somebody.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you were walking around with Robert Kelly at the time, shopping or something.
As I'm sure we were. We spent every day in a mall on that tour for some reason.
Yeah, you guys, that was the Just for Laughs tour. And by the way, that would be a great sitcom, you and Robert Kelly, sort of. Did you know that Yakov Smirnoff was roommates with Andrew Dice Clay back in the day?
Really? No,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And I could see this, that as a sitcom and this. Like you and Robert Kelly, you nice and clean, Robert not so nice and clean.
Yeah, Robert's great. I keep bumping into him in the city, and we've become pals, and he's pals. I don't know who says pals anymore. But we have fun. Yeah, that'd be a great sitcom. That'd be funny. Huh?
But back to, you told me in that interview that you draw from real life experiences. And so this goes to the balloon experience, your hot air balloon. And you actually took a hot air balloon ride?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah, years and years ago.
And, that kind of fascinates me, but I totally see how it would induce panic in me. And that's what you say, that's part of the act.
Right,
Did it
yeah.
really?
Yeah, I mean, it did. I probably exaggerated
Yeah.
a little bit. But yeah, I did. I had that panic. I had some fear. And I think I mostly had anxiety about not knowing where we're going. And just kind of, it felt like the whole time I got up there, it was like, okay, now we just have to land somewhere.
Yeah.
That's it wasn't relaxing.
Well, it's in a big field, right? It's
Yeah.
over a countryside.
Well, yeah,
Where was it?
there's power lines, and we're in
Right.
like kind of a suburban, so it's just like, you don't know where you're going to go.
Yeah, and that big flame doesn't help.
Right, in the big flame, yeah.
You come out. Oh, you were drawn to comedy. I saw that little film on you on your website.
Oh, yeah.
They were speaking to an old boss of yours, and he
Yes.
asked you, how things were going. You said not so well. I want to do stand up comedy. Like this was just a feeling that you had to do. Is that right?
Yeah, that conversation with my boss is funny because we had two different perspectives on it.
Okay.
See, when I told him that, I didn't know that we were. He was my friend, and he still is my friend. And I thought we were having a friend conversation.
Oh, I see.
and work and friend overlaps, and it's great. And so it's just funny because he took that to mean, I believe now looking back, I'm really glad because I don't know if I had the guts to just quit, but he kind of pushed me in a direction like, if this isn't what you want to do, then you don't need to be here, kind of thing. So,
But you still needed a job.
but I needed a job. I wasn't ready to quit, I don't think, but it was good that I did. I mean, it was good that happened.
What was the job, by the way?
I worked in PR for a little advertising firm. I guess little, like 50 employees. I studied PR in college. Yeah.
And journalism?
Yeah, I studied journalism. I have associate degrees in print and broadcast journalism, and then I switched over to PR.
And did you ever do anything with journalism, like intern or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of things when I was studying it, and in and out of jobs in college. I had actually in high school I had a column in the paper, and just local on what was going on at the high school, and then I worked in for the local affiliates shooting high school sports, and I'd run back to the station at night and help write, and then we'd edit and get ready for the 10 o'clock broadcast. So I did that.
High school.
Yeah, in high school I did
Wow.
that, and in college. Yeah. So
Did you make the columns funny?
yeah, they were. I meant them to be funny. I had an interest in.
Wait a
writing.
second. You meant them to be funny.
mean,
Were they
well,
taken to be funny?
I pitched the idea to the newspapers because I didn't have a job and I wanted to write, and I was interested in writing and in journalism and in being funny. So I just called the newspaper. I said, "Look, you don't have anything like this. Would you like something like this?" And they said, "Sure." I think they paid me $10 a week.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad, right? But yeah, I've always been interested in journalism, and I still am, and in writing and in communications. I still read, PR publications. It just fascinates me.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Do you see through it, though? Because you studied it?
Well, the study of it fascinates me,
Yeah.
It's just the principles behind it and what motivates people to change their behavior and how people in communications do that. It's just interesting to me. I don't know why. But the actual application and practice of it, when I got into working, I was very disillusioned and I wasn't as happy, I don't think. And I really enjoy kind of the autonomy that I get with this job and being able to work for myself, and I love the creative process.
Yeah. Well, nobody said it's going to be fun and you have to enjoy your job, Ryan. Where did you get that idea?
I've always wanted that. I don't know why. I think
You couldn't just see yourself day after day going to an office.
I think about this a lot, and some people, I think, they just need security, and that's what makes them happy. And they can be in a job that they might enjoy, and they might, kind of every day going, I don't really have to be here, but I've got a paycheck coming in every month, and that gives them peace.
Okay.
And when I had that, I was kind of going, I want out, I want to explore, and I think there's two different types of personalities when it comes to career and career direction.
Yeah, that's a good perspective about they'll work for their holidays or 2, 3, 4 weeks a year, and that gives them happiness.
Yeah, I think both of those styles of career choice or decisions that you make. They're both. There's not one that's greater than the other, and I think there are things that are that I like a job like this that make other parts of your life, more challenging, family and things like that. So it's just kind of you make choices and what's going to bring you happiness in life. But I'm happy,
Yeah. And doing well. You're saying that. You were voted one of the top 5 comics to watch in Rolling Stone magazine.
Yeah.
And I noticed that was under the heading "What's So Funny," and that's the name of this show too. So.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah. And you're on Last Comic Standing, of course, a big primetime network exposure for several weeks, right?
Yeah. I've been on there 2 seasons of that. Never made it to the final 10, but right up before the final 10 twice.
And would you go on it again?
Yeah, I might. If the circumstances were right, yeah. I kind of look at that show as, just a vehicle, like all comics do. There's no other way to get on primetime television. And they've been good to me so far. I know people have qualms about the show, and I've never been a fan of comedy competitions, but...
Come on, you're the king of comedy competitions.
I have so many in my background, but it's interesting because I've never been a fan of them. But yeah, everything I always get stuff through competitions, so I can't really complain about them. But at the same time, I don't think any comic loves a comedy competition.
Yeah, I'm judging one right now that's going on at the Comedy Mix.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
Do you have an MO? What would you tell a young comic going into a competition? Just do your thing, or do you do anything different when you're in a competition?
I think there are a couple things that help in a competition. There's all different formats, so it kind of depends on the format. But over time in doing a bunch of these, I've learned that if you're doing a set over and over again for different audiences, a lot of comics will try and change it up. I think it's good to just keep the same set and really nail that set every time. And also, comics sometimes will hold back in the early rounds of a competition so that they'll strategize and go, well, when I advance to the next round, then I'm going to have this material to go to. And I've done that before, and I don't think it's the best strategy most of the time. I think you should just try and really hit it out of the park every time, and then just worry about the next round when you get there, especially the really bigger competitions where you're competing, with really great comics on a high level. Then, just hit it out of the park every time. Don't save anything. Just every time you go up, do the best that you can in every round. And I think you should have a better chance.
Well, of course, on Last Comic Standing, you had to do different material each time, right?
Yeah, on Last Comic, you have to do different material. But there are other competitions all over the country, and they all have different formats. There's one in Seattle here that a lot of Vancouver comics do that I did, and that's in that one. I would suggest comics to do the same set every week and then change their set when they make it to the next round in the next week.
I would say, as a judge who's there week after week, I want to see different material.
Well, yeah, you do. In that case, I mean, there's a lot of different factors, but in that competition in Seattle, the judges change every night.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you about your look. Sitting here across the table from you, you are a normal-looking guy.
Thanks. I don't get that very often.
Yet on stage, you have a great comedic look, and you focus on that to start off, right? I mean, was this something like? I can't imagine growing up that people were commenting on your look, but on stage, it's.
That's an interesting observation. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say because I don't try to look different on and off stage. It's not.
No, it's not that at all.
Yeah.
It's just for some reason. I mean, obviously you're maybe more exaggerated and you're looking around the room and things like that. And your smile, you got a big smile that lights up a room.
Thank you. I just, I don't know. I get a lot of comments about my look after shows. People say, you look like this, you look like this. And I don't know, maybe all comics do, but I feel like I get it more than most comics. Like, your look is interesting. You can make me laugh with your face. And I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about that. But I'm glad to hear that I don't look that way off stage.
So you've mentioned Chris Rock, a white Chris Rock, and the illegitimate son of Jerry and Elaine. I mentioned in print Howdy Doody.
Yeah, I get Howdy Doody, which is so... and you're not the only one.
Oh, good.
Which, I mean... how old is the Howdy Doody reference that people still even know who that is? It's just, I can't even believe it. But people...
Who else have you got?
Nicolas Cage.
What?
Yeah. People say I sound like Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, now that you mention it.
Yeah,
yes.
I get that.
And a bit of Seinfeld, too.
Yeah, and I get that. People say I look and sound somewhat like Seinfeld. It's kind of a curse. I mean, naturally, I'm just like that, I guess.
Yeah.
I just have a natural cadence that happens to fit Seinfeld's natural cadence in some ways. Who else? I don't know. Yeah, those are a couple lately that I've kind of like got a few times. Jeff Goldblum and Nicolas Cage.
Well, I mean, it is good. I mean, ultimately, it's your words that make you a good comic or not. But there are all these little factors that people subconsciously consider. Your looks, the sound of your voice, your movements.
Yeah.
Right? They all make a comic.
Yeah.
And somebody could be a great writer, great jokes, and they're missing the other things, and they might do okay, but they wouldn't if they had all those other factors. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of things that go into making a good comic. That's why I feel like there are probably the funniest people aren't always comics. The funniest people just, in our society, because it takes a lot of things to come together to make a comic. But I think there are some really funny people who just don't have a desire to be a comedian, or they're not in the right circumstance, or they don't have the performance desire or bug or ability, or but they're just really funny people. So it's an interesting thing. It takes a lot, and it takes a lot of skills too that aren't even related to comedy. You got to have discipline to write and put yourself out there and be able to take risks sometimes and promote yourself, and there's a lot of things.
Yeah, and bomb.
Yeah, you got to be able to bomb and be fine with it. I can't even say bomb without my voice cracking. It hurts so much.
Are you fine with it?
Yeah, I can get up and bomb occasionally if I have to. I think it's good. I think it's good if a comic's bombing every once in a while, because if they're not, maybe they're not taking risks. I mean, you get to a level where you bomb less and less and less. Yeah. You know what I mean? But especially in the beginning, if you're not bombing occasionally, you're probably not taking risks, and you got to take risks.
How long have you been doing this?
About 10 years now. Yeah, off and on. About 6 years full time.
I'm always amazed, and I come across it a fair bit, comics who are shy off stage or growing up were shy, and what it takes to get up on stage when you are shy. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I was shy growing up, and most people who grew up with me, when they find out I'm a comedian, are kind of surprised. But I've always had a thing. I don't know if other comics maybe other comics have said something similar to you, but I feel more comfortable sometimes in front of a group than one-on-one, especially growing up. I'm better now, but I mean, I wasn't like extremely awkward or anything, but I was just kind of, it did give me a little anxiety sometimes. Whereas in a group, I felt like if I was speaking in front of a group, it was like, it almost wasn't a person, it's kind of a faceless entity.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you don't like the forced small talk of a one-on-one situation.
I mean, I enjoy, interesting ideas and learning about people, and I feel like I'm a good listener and a good observer, and I like being in conversations and listening sometimes, but I do feel, I don't know what it is, but I just feel more comfortable sometimes. I mean, like I said, it's not as much now, but growing up I did experience that.
It's interesting, last night at your show at the Comedy Mix, I did notice, and this was what made me think you were so in the moment, is that you are a good listener. Somebody will say something, and some comics will just ignore that. I mean, it may not be overt, but your ear will catch it, and then you'll address it.
Yeah, and listening is a lot of things, just not just actually hearing what people say, but, picking up on all sorts of things. And every audience is just so unique. Yeah, and sometimes I will ignore something if it comes out, but other times I just can't ignore it, and I like to. But I'm very attentive to the audience and and most comics are, I'm sure. But I'm always hearing things and trying to. Sometimes it's a mistake.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can be interesting and fun.
And you do embrace the silence, the quiet moments. You can go big, but you can also just talk at your own pace, quietly, without feeling, I got to fill this. Right?
Yeah.
Some audience members can't. They hear a bit of a silence and they got to jump in with something because they're uncomfortable or something.
Right.
That takes confidence too, doesn't it?
I think so. I'm okay with quiet. I don't know why. I can live. It's kind of an interesting thing. I can live in that awkward moment for a while, and I'm doing that thing now that is kind of risky, where I just ask for a question. Are there any questions?
Yes.
And then I say I have time for one more question because nobody really says anything. And I never know what's going to happen. But most of the time there isn't any question. It just leads into that other joke about saying I have time for one more question. And that joke, I should say the joke now because I think it's just funny to say in normal, casual, everyday conversation, just in the middle of a conversation, look at your watch and go, I have time for one more question. Which, I don't know, it's not I mean, the joke itself isn't something that's like, this is a really thought out, but I like doing that little piece because it makes something interesting happen in the show sometimes, and it's a little bit engaging to the audience, and it's a little bit risky, and some clubs hate it that I do that, I think.
The owner's management?
Yeah, because it engages the audience too much.
It encourages them to yell out.
Yeah.
And you ever get any interesting questions?
Not very often. No. I mean, a lot of times they'll just be ridiculous questions. They're mostly questions about jokes I've already done, or people panic and they don't know what to ask. But I would love it if someone asked something really off the wall and weird,
One thing I hate to bring up, and I'm guilty of it as a writer, and I think in other articles I've seen about you, is, two things. One, you're this stealth, clean comic, and it's sort of a stigma. Because, no, you're a comic, right? But I say stealth because people go to a club, they don't know you, maybe, and they don't know what to expect. And last night I was heading up the stairs, and the guy in front of me was telling his date, did you notice he didn't even swear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens a lot at my shows, I think. I hear people come up and there'll be two people, and one will say, that was great, and then they'll turn to their friend and go, did you notice that he didn't swear or anything? And the other person go, no, he did. Oh, he didn't. Like, they don't know. And I like that. I like hearing that.
Yeah. But do you like it being the focus of describing you? Because then it becomes something different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like being defined by it. Like, this guy's a clean comedy or whatever. Yeah. But every comic battles with that, And I think every comic gets categorized somehow. And if that's my category, I'm just trying to be myself, and every comic is so individual that it's hard to put them in categories. But
you don't hear it with Bill Cosby or Jerry Seinfeld. Oh, they're clean comics.
You don't think?
Do you? I mean, I hear it with Brian Regan.
Brian Regan gets it.
Yeah.
And I know he kind of feels the way where he doesn't want to be categorized, you know?
Right, and I understand that.
Yeah.
And yet, as a writer, I need an angle.
Yeah, right. There's got to be. And I think Bill Cosby gets it, and I think, you don't think about it as much with Seinfeld. Seinfeld's like the observational comic is his category, the minutia of life. Cosby's the storyteller, I guess, would probably be more prominent than the clean comic. But he does have a kind of a family image about him, or, promoting. He's always promoting some sort of value or something, it seems like.
You're not promoting anything.
I'm just trying to have fun. I mean, I don't have any big issues or anything that I'm trying to push. I don't know. I enjoy this, and if people enjoy it, then I'm happy.
Yeah. And it's okay for a writer to point out that you are a clean comic.
Yeah, it's
because don't you think though that some people will go, clean comic, I'm not going to go, whereas others will go, hey, I am going to go.
Yeah, I would rather have comedy fans than fans of clean entertainment.
Right.
I've been on tours before that were billed as clean comedy tours, and the audiences came out were great, but they also weren't big comedy fans necessarily. They were more like, oh, this is an event we can go to that's going to be clean, which is great. But I think there's got to be a way to introduce me to people that's like, this is comedy and it's clean, but it's comedy first, Yeah. I want it to be comedy first. I'm okay with people saying that it's clean. That's what I am. It's truthful, and it's kind of what I'm naturally drawn to. It's not like I'm trying to change myself, but I would like to be comedian first, before all of that, and it's just comedy. And you're right. It's kind of like there are people who just want to be shocked or whatever, or that's what they want to hear is something dirty, and it's fine too. There's a place for that. But I don't know. It's not for me. But I don't know. It's something that I think about a lot. And you can't. What can you do about it though? I mean, it's just going to happen.
Drop a couple of F-bombs.
Well, I mean, there's nothing to. You're going to get labeled somehow. Every comedian is. It's just going to happen.
There's this thought out there that clean comedy is more difficult, which I don't buy. It's completely up to the individual comic. You can do easy or difficult humor, whether it's clean or dirty.
I agree.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
See, yeah, I agree with you on that, and you don't hear that often. It's mostly the sentiment is clean comedy is harder.
Yeah.
And here's why I think that happens: is because there are jokes that are just shocking. They're not jokes even. Mm-hmm. It's just a shocking thing, and that's usually something dirty, And so you can see a comic who might get some laughs just by doing that. And then automatically you go, that's dirty comedy, and that's easy. But that's not true. I mean, it's comedy is hard. Any type of good comedy is hard, whether or not it's clean or dirty. Whatever label you place on it, any type of good comedy is hard. It's almost the difference between good comedy and bad comedy.
Exactly. And your tastes are probably broad in comedy. You hang out in clubs and you hang out, go on tours, right?
Yeah, I'll go watch when I'm at the Cellar in New York and Dave Attell comes in. I'm a fan. It's good comedy. You watch him and you go, oh, that's dirty, and I could never. That's not what I'm doing, but that's a really good joke. It's just like, and sometimes I feel like clean comedy gets this rap of like, you're not being honest, like you're missing something because you're being, I don't know. So there's different perceptions of each type.
Not being honest in that you're holding back something?
Yeah, I guess, like why wouldn't you just be free and on stage and say whatever you want? Because that's what this is about, But I'm naturally, I don't really curse off stage or on stage.
Right, so you're being honest.
Yeah, I'm trying to be.
Bob Newhart's favorite comic was Richard Pryor.
Oh, I think I've read that. Yeah. And you got to make decisions. Sure, you got to make decisions. Like after you've been doing comedy for a long time, you kind of go, this is kind of who I am, and this is where my voice is, and so you do more and more things like that. I've heard Brian Regan in interviews say things like, sure, there are jokes that I think of that I can't really do that don't fit, and I think every comic has something like that, Brian. And Dave Attell probably has it in the other direction.
Sure.
Right.
That's why comics will come up with a great joke that doesn't really fit their act, and they'll give it to someone.
Yeah, they give it to someone else. I thought of something for you. Yeah. This is great. Yeah.
And the other angle that I don't like to bring up, but I did, was you being Mormon. I mean, you don't talk about it on stage, but you say you have no problem talking about it off stage. But if it gets to that point where people are always asking you about it, then does it stigmatize you for a regular comedy crowd?
That's an interesting question. Comics are always going, you got to talk about that. That's interesting. Nobody's got that angle, really. Not a lot of people are talking about that. So maybe someday I will. I don't know. I'm scared of it mostly because it is pretty, there aren't that many comics who are Mormon. So when I bring it up, I just don't want to become the Mormon comic, I would rather be a comic who happens to be Mormon, a good comic that we like. Oh, he happens to be Mormon.
Right. Like Michael Jackson is Jehovah's Witness.
Is he? Yes.
Wasn't he? I thought Prince is. One of those guys.
Okay. It could be. I don't know.
Yeah. Nobody thinks of them as the Jehovah's Witness entertainer.
Right.
They just happen to be.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
But if... right. Now I'm trying to think of Michael Jackson songs that could be interpreted Jehovah's Witness. But I don't know. I'm not afraid to talk about it. It's who I am. And maybe I should talk about it on stage. Maybe I'm not being honest if I don't. And I kind of battle with that. But it is a thing where I bring it up, and I know maybe a lot of audiences don't know a lot about it, and it's strange for them, and maybe I should talk about it in that light. But I don't know. For right now, I'm just kind of happy doing what I'm doing. Maybe someday I will talk about it more. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have comics who are Catholic or Jewish, and they mention it, and they don't get labeled as, oh, that's a Catholic comic.
Right. Yeah, and maybe I'm, getting to a point where I just felt like in the beginning, especially, I really had to kind of prove myself as a comedian before I could delve into that kind of thing. I still feel like I'm proving myself.
Really?
Yeah, sure.
To who?
To everybody and other comics and the industry and audiences. Constantly, I still feel like that, yeah.
You think you always will?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's going. This year's going well, but it's kind of like I hope next year goes well too. Sometimes I feel like, I just got into comedy kind of because I loved it, but I lost my job and I was looking for another job, and I started paying my bills doing comedy. And sometimes in the back of my head, even 10 years later, I'm like, I got to find another job, every once in a while. Not as much, but 5 years ago, a lot. And now, sometimes still. So yeah, I'm constantly proving myself and hoping that I can get better and improve.
You last night I thought you were going to talk about being Mormon when you said some guy came up to you and said something about the Lord Jesus Christ.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But so the angle you took on that was the angle of any one of us who is approached by someone saying that.
Sure.
Where it's sort of like, this guy's crazy.
Yeah. And I end the joke with, religious or not, nobody wants to... So the joke is, I should just say the joke, since people may not be familiar, probably aren't. I was waiting at an elevator, and there was a guy on his phone, and he's looking at me, and he's just kind of staring, and he says, like he's in a hurry, doesn't hang up the phone. He goes, "Hey, do you know for certain if you've been saved by the Lord Jesus Christ?" And I said, "Why, did he say something? Is that him? Are you talking to him? Let me talk to him. I think I know what this is about." And then I end the joke. Nobody wants rumors floating around, religious or not,
Right.
So I don't even define myself there really as religious. I kind of go,
That's
is
right.
he religious? Or I know the audience is kind of going, well, where do you stand, Because I think originally the joke, I think if you come out and I don't say religious or not there at the end, I think the audience might take away, this guy's not religious. He's making fun of the guy who asked him if he is.
So you have an out for either audience.
Well, it's just I do that line, and that's a funny line to me too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just there to, But it also, I want people, I don't want people to walk away going, oh, that guy doesn't like religious people, or something.
So, you're kind of giving hints along the way.
Yeah, people can pick it up.
So what is the biggest misconception about Mormons? Do you know of any?
That we have a lot of wives. I get asked that a lot.
Yeah, I guess. But that's not across the board. That's a little sect, right?
Yeah, that's
faction.
not, yeah. People who are actually Mormon do not practice polygamy, but there's, a faction that is not, they call themselves a form of Mormonism or whatever, I guess. I'm not even that familiar with the specifics of it, but I just know that I get asked that constantly.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like how many wives do you have?
Constantly, yeah. So that may be one. I don't know. That's probably the biggest one, I would guess.
And do you get? I mean, Mormonism is a Christian religion.
Yeah,
obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I know, having grown up Catholic, that from the born again faction, they will say that Catholics aren't Christians. And do they say that with Mormons too? Like, oh, you're not a Christian, you're a Mormon?
Right, yeah. And I've always been confused as to why we're not celebrating our commonalities, because there's so much in common between, especially all Christian religions. There's so much in common, but just even all religion, there's so much in common, That does happen occasionally.
But you have your own
That's
special
pretty
book.
rare anymore, but I think that does happen. Yes, there's the Book of Mormon, which is goes along with the Bible as a companion.
And you had to do missionary work?
I did do missionary work. I was a missionary for 2 years, a full-time missionary, and it was a good experience in my life. It was something that I learned a lot from, and I think, shaped me. It's kind of crazy. It was really hard, and I think some people might look at it and go, it's insane that you did that, but yeah.
What was hard? I mean, you were in the suit and tie walking down the street, approaching people?
It was hard. I was 19 years old. I did that for 2 whole years of my life, and I moved away from home, and I was young. I hadn't been away from home that much, and you just work hard. You get up every morning at like 6:30, you go to bed at like 10, and you do that every day for 2 years, every day. You have a day off. You don't, you just... you sacrifice a lot during that time to do that. So it's just a difficult thing. It's just one of those periods in my life that was difficult, but difficult in a good way, that pushed me in a way that I hopefully gave me some direction and helped make me a better person. I'm trying constantly still to be a better person.
Sleep deprivation, that's how they get you.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is. Now, when I interviewed you, when was that? In the fall, I guess. October, November, whenever that tour was.
Uh-huh.
You said that in January you were going to be doing a big theater show in Idaho, your home state.
That's right.
How did that go?
That was fun. It was really fun. It went great. We did. The theater was way too big for me, but the theater just booked me and said, we want to have you no matter what, and so I did it. It was 1,200 seat theater, which, it's just too big for me. I can't, anywhere, even at home. But we did like 450 seats, I think, which I was happy with those numbers. It was great. So, yeah, it was my first like solo theater show where we're just like, okay, open to the public, completely full-on theater. And I was happy. 450, that was great, I thought. So. Mm-hmm. And the show was really fun. Yeah.
Family and friends who hadn't seen you before, I guess they'd seen you on TV.
Yeah, most of my family and close friends have all seen me. I've performed close to home too. I performed at a college the year before, my alma mater. I went to 2 schools, but I went to a school really close to home there, and they had me back, and I performed there. So a lot of people had seen me then too.
It's interesting, the big theater shows like that, and usually they are reserved for celebrity comics. Like tomorrow night you're up against Chelsea Handler, who's playing
she's in town, really?
The Orpheum downtown, yeah. But I was thinking, after seeing you last night in the show, the average person might go to see Chelsea Handler because they know the name, right? Pay the big bucks. I don't know how much it's going for. But they would get more laughs at the club, seeing you and a couple local guys, right?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I
often
I've never
find
seen
myself,
Chelsea.
maybe it's the expectations of going into a theater where the
Oh.
shows may be good, but it's not maybe $100 good.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. We're not comparing comedians. We're comparing theater to club experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe I have a bias towards clubs, too.
Yeah, I think comedy's better seen in a club.
Yeah.
I think it's just more enjoyable in a club environment.
But as soon as you're big enough, you know where you're going to the theaters.
You know what? It's weird. I've never really had this observation before now, but I think comedy is more fun for an audience in the club and more fun for a comedian in a theater.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's fun in a club too, but there is something about stepping onto a stage in a theater that's just like there's a lot of freedom in that. You know, you can do a lot of stuff, you can do whatever you want, and it's kind of a rush. It's fun.
traditionally in comedy clubs, the Friday Late Show is the horror show. People have been at work all day drinking, and so do you find that you don't embrace the silence as much, or you speed up a little more on a Friday Late Show, or can you still do your act the way you like to do it?
Well, Friday Late Show specifically, I don't know. I mean, every audience is so different.
Right.
It could be that the hard show in a weekend is Saturday early show, you know? It's just like, you never really know. But, yeah, I definitely adapt to every audience. So if they're tired, a little bit drunk, you know, I'll speed it up if I have to, talk over them a little bit if I have to, or if I feel like I'm not connecting, I might go to the audience just for a minute to connect, but I'm less likely to in those environments just because it becomes chaotic quicker.
Right.
You know, on a typical Saturday early show, you can go to the audience and get out of it and easier. You go into the audience on a Friday late show, typical Friday late show, it's like, okay, you better be prepared for the ramifications of this to continue throughout your set because you've opened up a box that's harder to close.
That's why you need a good staff there.
Yeah, the staff's great, yeah. And that's why sometimes they hate it when I go to the audience because they're like, why are you doing that?
I want to ask you about some of your material because you say it is based on real life, and we talked about the balloon experience. Now, you mentioned also speed dating. Have you really done speed dating?
Yeah, I really did that.
Now, here's my ignorance about Mormonism, but was it a Mormon speed dating thing?
It was, actually.
Okay.
When you said that, yeah.
Could you do one outside, or you choose?
Sure, yeah, I could, yeah. I've dated people who aren't LDS before. Mm-hmm. I mean, mostly I have dated... LDS is another term
Latter-day
for it, yeah.
Saints.
I've dated people who aren't Mormon, but mostly I have dated Mormon girls, yeah.
Should I be saying LDS instead of Mormon? Is one better, one preferable?
Mostly Mormon people will say LDS. So...
and LDS people will say Mormon.
yeah.
So you've done the speed dating, and how many hits did you get?
A couple.
Yeah.
Couple. That was quite a while ago too. Yeah. I met a couple of girls. Yeah, it wasn't a bad experience. It's kind of like the online dating thing, and I've done that also a little bit, where it's just like, speed dating's better, I think, actually, than the online. The online dating thing, it's like you can spend time emailing back and forth, and then 10 minutes you meet a person and go, oh, if we met at a party, you know, this it just would have been like instantaneous or whatever.
Right. And then there's also that factor of, if you met at a party, you might really like someone, whereas you would immediately discount them online just by their interests.
Yeah, it can go both ways. Absolutely. Yeah.
Parachuting.
Yes.
Done that too.
Yeah.
Now, are you a thrill seeker, or did you do this just for the story? Like, why would you do this? A friend of mine called me one night at like 8 p.m. and said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "I don't have anything going on." He goes, "Let's go skydiving." And I thought about it, and I said, "Okay, I've never been. Let's do it." Wow. And you'd never thought about it prior to that?
No, never thought about it. It wasn't like a thing where I'm like, I got to do this. It was just like, I got the day off. Let's go do it. I'll do that. I like being spontaneous like that, even though I do plan a lot, but I'm okay with doing stuff like that.
What was that moment? Because I can't imagine ever doing that. What was that moment just before you went, or you were on the ledge of the plane about to jump for the first time?
It was kind of surreal. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like you're in the moment going, this just, your brain doesn't know how to go, I'm jumping out of an airplane. So I think it just pretends that it's not. But even though you are, and you're just like, you're falling through the sky going, I guess I'm falling through the sky. It just never really connects, it feels like, to me. But it was great. I mean, I don't have this need to go do it again and again. For me, I know some people who would be like, oh, that was such a rush, I got to do that again. I kind of feel that way about comedy. Like when I get off stage, I feel like, oh, I want to do that again, sometimes. But with the physical stuff, it was fun. It just wasn't, I don't have to become, I'm not a adrenaline junkie or something.
You would do it again?
I'd consider doing it again. Yeah.
By yourself this time?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought about it. I thought, going back and getting some classes and stuff like that, but I don't know. Maybe I will someday, but it's not like a top priority.
You still dream of being a talk show host?
Yeah. I think every comedian...
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think, everybody's like, that's the job right there. That's it. And
how do you do that?
How do you do what?
How do you get that job?
I don't know. I wish I knew.
So you just keep plugging away at what you're doing, and hopefully one day the stars align?
Well, I think you got to set your sights on it. If that's what you really, really want, you got to set your sights on it and go for it. But it's, it's a hard thing. There's a lot of things I could do in comedy that I'd be really happy with, But to do something like that would be amazing. I don't even know if I'd be good at it, actually. I think it's...
You have the journalism background.
Yeah. I think I could get into the interviewing and stuff like that. There's the thing about the talk show host job. I think every comedian wants it, but it's a different skill set than doing stand-up, It's the same in some regards, but I think it also requires different skills than just standing on stage and telling jokes,
And yet, all the ones that we can think of, with the odd exception, have been stand-ups.
Yeah, they mostly have been.
I guess Jimmy Kimmel wasn't a stand-up.
Not necessarily.
Jack Parr wasn't, but,
Jimmy Fallon was not a stand-up.
No, or he wasn't even involved in comedy at all.
Well, you're not a Fallon fan. Conan O'Brien's
there's another one.
Seminal
see?
example.
I'm wrong.
Letterman has abandoned it
and
did it for a short time.
He did it for a long enough time to get his job.
I guess so, But I think Letterman always started his career going, I'm going to do something in comedy. And
You said that there are a number of things you could do in comedy that you'd be happy with. Obviously, you're a guy who has goals and dreams and aspirations. And are you goal-oriented like that, where you sit down and look at the big picture? And
I try to be. I mean, I've found in this business, I think this business is harder than some other careers to set goals like that. To go, I think you do have to, but things change so dramatically. There's so many different doors that are opening all the time. So it's just kind of a matter of every day choosing the right ones and seeing where you go. But yeah, I would love to. I'm starting to do more acting, and I'm enjoying that. And I just want to see how much I, enjoy it, and if I'm any good at it. So far, I like it.
You're doing it professionally, or are you taking lessons?
I'm doing classes, just taking classes and educating myself on it, and I do little projects here and there, little short films with NYU students, and whenever some comes up, and I'll go out and audition on the odd thing when someone sees me. I like, and I want to try and do more of that.
Well, one day, with that look of yours, it'll be a sitcom.
Yeah, I hope I can ride this look all the way. Because that's all I've got.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
34, yeah.
I don't tell many people. I try not to tell people my age.
Do you want me to edit this out?
Yes, would you? Okay. No. It's out there, but I don't tell a lot of people. Yeah.
They think you're younger, obviously.
I hope they do. I think I've aged a lot in the last 3 years. I think when I was 31, people thought I was 26, and now they think I'm 34.
Yeah. It only goes downhill from there. Yeah, you'll grow. Who knows what kind of look you'll grow into?
Yeah, maybe it'll change.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Now, I understand that when you were in Boston, you saw Mitch Hedberg, and that's what really made you want to do stand-up. You saw him live in a club?
Yeah, that was the first time I really saw live stand-up.
Had you heard of him before?
Yeah. I'd seen him on Letterman. I didn't know him by name, but I'd seen him on Letterman a few times.
Okay.
And I was just a huge fan, and I walked by and saw his headshot and recognized him and said, oh, I got to see this guy.
And in person, even better?
Yeah, great. Really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he'd be an influence, at least made you really want to do stand-up, even though your styles are completely different.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm really drawn. He really makes me laugh even right now. I loved Mitch Hedberg because he was a really successful comic, which you don't see that often.
That's right. Yeah, that's usually the really successful ones. The other comics hate.
Yeah. So I think I have this theory that comedy, I think he was so influential to comedians. I think comedy would be different if he hadn't died. Quite a bit different. Right when he died is right about when Dane Cook was starting to take off, And to me, it's like that was kind of a pivotal time in modern comedy, like as it's happening right now, it seems like, because all of a sudden Mitch was very likable, and I guess he was kind of cool in a way, but he was more just kind of laid back. Dane Cook, likable also, but very cool, he was cool. And so I think comedy took a shift when Mitch left to being like a little more about, a little more, you got to be a little cool all of a sudden. Everybody's trying to be,
A little too...
And I like Dane Cook, too,
Yeah.
I have nothing... I like both of those comics. But I think it was an interesting time when a lot of things started to shift around a little bit. I think Dane and Mitch are probably like the two most... You go to an open mic and you'll probably see those guys, imitated by new comics more than anybody else. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Ryan Hamilton, I have time for one more question.
Okay.
What do you got coming up? Back to New York.
Back to New York. I'm just on the road a lot this year. I'm really enjoying working in the clubs. And March 5th, there's a Showtime date airing. Caroline Ray and Friends Showtime special.
Good Canadian?
Yes, she is. She's great.
Yeah.
She's really good comedian and a great person.
So's her husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Kostaki Economopoulos.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine as well.
Ah.
Yeah, I like both of them. Good people and very funny.
So that's on Showtime?
Yes, that'll be on Showtime. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kostaki's on the special also.
Oh.
Yep.
Nepotism.
It was fun. It was a fun show, so we'll see how it comes out. I'm excited to see it. And other than that, just working right now. So
working being stand-up.
Yeah, just on the road. Yeah. And in New York as much as I can be.
Coming back to Vancouver?
I would love to. Yeah, I love it here. I love the city. I want to get back more.
Well, good. Maybe this could be a yearly visit.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I'm also doing another JF Just for Laughs tour in April, but it's all in Ontario, I think. Yeah.
Bastards.
Yeah.
Well, we'll hope to see you back soon.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'd love to get back.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks to Ryan Hamilton for our little sit-down, hour-long chat on Friday afternoon. If you didn't get a chance to see him at the Comedy Mix, well, make sure you go to his website or something. Go to the Comedy Mix website. Request him back because he does a good show. Very funny. Next week, we have live in studio Johnny Scoop. He's making his return to What's So Funny right here on Co-op Radio, CFRO 102.7 FM, and podcast as well. That's it. Thanks for listening. Good night.